Hello, and welcome to AI for Apologetics, where we're looking at how we can use AI tools to help us in our apologetics ministry. And really, this goes beyond just apologetics. We can use it in any of our endeavors, but we're looking specifically at apologetics cases. We've been looking at a ton of examples because I feel like that's the easiest way to learn is just by looking at examples. So that's what we've been doing. We're going to dive right in. Today, we're talking about content creation. So, in any ministry that you're doing, you're going to be generating content, whether, no matter what you're doing. And so, a lot of people have blogs. And so that's kind of what we're going to look at today. But if we think of a blog as just anything where you have written content, well, a lot of people just use Facebook as kind of a blog platform because they'll write long posts, and then throw them out there. So this applies there too. But in the way social media works, the way blog posts work, the way content creation works, is you kind of always have to be doing it. But if you have writer's block or something, then where do you go? We've all struggled with that. So I'm going to dive in and go right to this. I'm going to say, based on what you know about me, give me 10 blog post ideas about doubt and faith that I could write. All right, so this is just really no different than you can subscribe to an email list that gives you a writing prompt every day, or you can buy a book of 1,000 writing prompts, stuff like that. Well, you can do that here through ChatGPT. And the important things I want to note about this prompt is that I start off by saying, based on what you know about me. Right. So in ChatGPT, I'm signed in as me. You can see my little profile picture down here. I'm signed in as me. And so when I'm signed in and I'm not using one of those temporary chats, then it can reference all of our past conversations. And so everything that I've used this for, as I've talked about, how should I structure my web page, or help me reformat this presentation about grief that I have, or about even coming up with ideas for ministry and sharpening the tone of focusing the tone of my ministry. It knows all that. I've used it to help me. My testimony could be a book, but it needs to be a 15-minute talk. And so I've used it to get my testimony into a usable form for the audience that I've got. So it knows a lot about me. Um, and then in addition to just past conversations, as I share things with it, then it has a special memory that it'll put things in. So, when I say I'm working on a presentation about the resurrection for a youth group, then it's going to lock that into a different memory that's outside of our conversations. That's going to say David is working on a presentation about the resurrection for a youth group, and it's going to use that in every conversation I have. And that's why, as we're going through the examples, you're going to see some about youth groups, because that's an audience that I speak to occasionally, but not often enough that I feel confident just going in there and doing that. Right? I'm confident with the content, but the audience, I want to make sure that I'm targeting the audience correctly, and that they're going to get out of it what I want to. So it knows things about me, and then this doubt and faith. That's something that, as somebody who was an atheist for 20 years before becoming a Christian for about that same amount of time now, this intersection of doubt and faith is real interesting because. That's something I see in the church a lot, is that doubt is bad, faith is good, and by faith typically they mean like blind faith, right? And that's something that kind of gets under my skin. So I want to write about doubt and faith. Now, I didn't have to put that in there. I could have just said, give me 10 blog post ideas, and it would have just thrown stuff out. So I just kind of targeted it a little bit. Why doubt doesn't mean defeat, the hidden strength in questions, and why Christianity welcomes honest inquiry. So these are, 10 things where we could go to start a blog. Why Christianity makes room for honest skeptics. Um, and so there we go. And now it says, do you want a mini outline for one of these? Inviting doubt into discipleship. That sounds great. So let's see. Let's see. Number 10. Mini outline. And so now it's taken that one kind of nugget of like brainstorming stuff, and it's given me, a title, the hook, how, breaking it into sections. And so now we have a flow of thought for our blog that's going to be logical. Um, and and so let's see. See, it even knows my ministry name, and uh, it's got some really good stuff in here. Um, and now, if I were actually working on a blog post about this, I would take that structure that it gave me, and I would kind of look at it. And knowing me, I would read through it a couple of times and kind of ingest it, and then I would put it aside and write something out myself that may or may not follow this outline. But it's getting me there quicker. Do I want to expand it into a full blog post? Um, yes. Make the full blog post. Be careful to stick closely to my style. Not correcting typos today. So I told it to be as close as it can to my style. Um, All right, so I challenge you to go to gracetruthcoffee.com, read a few of my blog posts, and see if you think this is in my style. Because I can tell you it's not. I'd love for you to go look at the blog, read some of the things, give me feedback. Um, but do I ever start anything with a question? I don't believe I do. Um, and we tuck it away. I personally, my writing style, I think this is wasted. It's wasted space, wasted words. Um, I would do an intro a little differently than that. I tend to like to use story because people connect with stories. I don't want people to internalize and think of their questions. I want them to connect through stories. And so I may write a story where two people are interacting and some have these questions, but this isn't my style, is what I'm getting at. And but this maybe is good. I challenge you to find bullet points on my blog, within any of my blogs. I mean, my blog covers years of work. Maybe they're in there, but I doubt it. So my point here is that even though Chat knows a ton about me, and I've brainstormed blog posts with Chat, and I've even copied entire things that I've written that are blog posts in there, and said, check this for accuracy, tone, typos, whatever. So it should know my writing style. It has seen it. It has it in its memory, and it still can't quite do it. And so this is where I put in my caution about don't use this to write long form comment content for you, because it will ultimately come across as inauthentic. And really, as we're developing our ministries, as we write, as we produce content on our own, whether it's videos or writing, that helps shape our voice and refine our voice. And chat can help us refine our voice by helping us be more concise, streamlined, focused, and whatever, but it doesn't replace our voice. So, as tempting as it may be to just go, okay, chat, write 10 blog posts for me, then schedule them out there for the next 10 weeks. Ultimately, that's going to undermine your credibility and your ministry, because it's not authentic. It's not your voice. And if you do get a huge following that way, and then you show up somewhere to speak, the person people meet is going to be different than the person they've been reading. And we don't want that, because we want to be good ambassadors for Christ, which means we're authentic, we're true, we're honest. So we can use this to help us out, help jumpstart our creative process, but it's not a replacement for that creative process. I like to say, as as writing is actually a challenging process for me. It feels like I am bleeding on the keyboard as I'm writing, and so if you think of your blog post and your content as a fire that is consuming you, this is fuel for the fire. Maybe that's a weird analogy, but Hemingway and whatever. Um, the Chat GPT can add fuel, but it doesn't replace the fire, and it's not the fire. So that's my caveat there. I may be opinionated about a few things, as you may have seen. So we've got blog post fodder, right? We've got the raw materials for blog posts that we could write. So that's one use case for content creation. Another is, say we need a 2-minute video script, because we've got whatever platform we're putting it on. We've got a following that is a high school audience maybe, and so we know that there are going to be high schoolers that see these videos, and as they share them and stuff, there will be some non-believers that see them too. So we want a 2-minute script explaining why the resurrection matters for general high school audiences of both believers and non-believers. One reason that's important is because um, as we're sharing our content, as we're out there speaking to people and writing to people, the people who are going to affirm us the most are the people that agree with us. And so it gets easy to get sucked into that trap of writing for them, which, the big part of our ministry is equipping them, right? So we want them to understand like why the resurrection matters. So that's absolutely a huge part of our ministry. But we want to do so without totally being dismissive of the non-believer. We want to be invitational and relational to them. So that's why I want to target this for believers and non-believers. If you're doing a church conference for just believers, it's just believers there, then maybe you don't have to do that. Um, but this is saying it's written in my warm, reasoned, invitational style, paced for about 2 minutes when spoken out loud. And so now, if you've seen some of the earlier videos where I'm bringing in some of these apologetics arguments and having it share them with us and help us understand them. This is using a lot shorter words, a lot shorter sentences. It lends itself better to being a recorded video. And for the audience that we've got, with high schoolers, you don't know what kind of reading level they're at, what their vocabulary is, how deep it is. And so this is going to be more relatable. The example we have is teachers. High school students are going to know teachers, so that's something they can do. Um, so let's see a short. So 60-second version. It's going to go ahead and do that. So I still what I would do with this, and this is just me because now this is supposed to be a 60-second script. Um, I wouldn't just read this verbatim. What I would do is I would read through this a few times. I would understand it, ingest it for myself, and I would probably throw it away or set it aside, hit record and just go, and try and keep it at 60 seconds because that's not going to be as polished, but it's going to be authentic, and that's what I go for. So with even a short script, I wouldn't use that to replace my own creative process. But in our you know the thing about ChatGPT is it can save us a ton of time, and time is precious. So that's kind of the idea here is some of that time we would wrestle over what to write or that kind of stuff and how to focus it to our audience. Chat can help with. But there are some social media platforms that demand more time of us than it is worth. You could argue that they all do, but if you're trying to build a ministry using AI, using social media, the one platform that doesn't seem to it's never going to go away, is X. It used to be called Twitter, then Elon bought it, and now it's X. Um, and the sweet spot for X is it's short form content that goes away quickly. And so, if you're on X and you respond to something that was posted a week ago, then that's old news. Nobody cares. So a key to being successful on X is this content generation that is just consistent and continual, even. On that kind of platform, because the content is so short but so frequent, um, it's really hard to come up with something. I mean, you got to be sitting there on it all day in order to come up with stuff and post it all day. So if we don't have that kind of time, let's give us 15 tweet length, or how about we'll do 21 tweet length apologetics insights about hope in Christ. And so here we go. So on Twitter, because it rewards content generation, and we want to share our original content that we create, our blog posts, the videos we record, all that kind of stuff. We want to share on Twitter, on X. but we have to share way more than that. And so this stuff is okay to just copy paste and share. It may not get any traction, it may get some. You just never know. You never know what's going to blow up and what's not. Um, so if death is not defeated, hope is an illusion. The resurrection says otherwise. So say you want to post one tweet a day on hope in Christ. Well, now we've just got 3 weeks worth of content, and this is stuff, and different people draw the line at different places. This is stuff that I would just throw out there if it were me. You can go check my Twitter feed. I'm not doing this right now, um, but that's something you can do. It's probably something I should do, but that's not the platform I care to engage in all that much. Even though I'm on there all the time. So and then another strategy over on X, and you can see um, this is anticipating my next question, because this isn't my first time to record this video. Do we want 10 that are phrased as thought-provoking questions? Yes, but how about 20? So apologetic insights about hope in Christ that is a thought-provoking question. If death is truly the end, where can lasting hope be found? What if hope isn't wishful thinking, but a person who defeated the grave? Some of these things do come from what it knows about me. Some of these things are ideas that I've written about. Um, how can temporary hope satisfy eternal longings? So now we've got questions that we can just post out there. And if you're trying to build a following on X, which is a good thing to do if you're trying to get a book published, or that's one of the things that publisher is going to ask you is about your following, and X is a place you can build a following. Um, the algorithms in any social media platform are driven by interactions. And so by posting questions, I don't know if you've noticed on social media, but people are opinionated. And if you throw questions out there and people see it, people will respond because they think they know. That's kind of how social media is. Everybody knows everything. And so if you put a question out there, people are going to dive in. Even if, like this number 16, how does Christ's victory over death speak into your greatest fears? You may get 1,000 atheists responding to that saying you're an idiot, but on Twitter, that's interaction, and that's going to boost you. And so I did want to mention, I want to point out that to see examples of this that are really working well, go check out Frank Turek on Twitter. He's cross-examined, um, is his ministry, and Frank generates a ton of content. He's got podcasts that he's doing that have YouTube videos, and he's putting out a few of those a week. He's speaking in places and recording that. He's doing Q&A with college audiences, putting snippets of that out everywhere. He's writing blog posts. He is generating a ton of original content. And he's putting that out on Twitter and on Facebook and wherever else he is, YouTube. But what I've noticed he does on both Facebook and Twitter is he will put out a question, like one of these questions, um, and he'll do it once a day or so. I don't know that I've ever seen him interact with the answers. And so what they're doing is they're just using AI behind the scenes to generate questions, and then they just post them there, one or two a day, and people interact with them. Well, when people interact with him, his following grows. People will see his tweets and they will start following him on Twitter or Facebook. Um, People, even the hateful people that are saying horrible things, drive that engagement and make his platform bigger so that using these questions that he has probably given no thought to the content generation part of it, even though he can answer all these, um, those questions that are pretty much no effort for him are making people see his content that he actually did create. And so it's a social media strategy. Um, I don't think it comes across as inauthentic because um, these are questions that they're short. It's not pretending to be original content necessarily. So your mileage may vary. It's not something I've done because, like I said, I'm not trying to build a Twitter following right now. But it's a social media strategy that maybe you hadn't thought about before, that especially if you have a paid account on X, then you can schedule tweets. And so you could, here I've got, if I want to do one a day, I've got almost 3 weeks worth right here. I could pick a different topic. I could pick, whatever. I could pick no topic at all and just say engaging tweets or whatever. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought, and you can see some angles you can go at to help with your content creation, help build your platform, and really focus on the things that are important. Your message is important, the your voice is important, and so chat can help us with the stuff that is kind of, you know, I don't want to say mind numbing, but challenging. It's challenging to come up with blog post ideas. It could be challenging to target a short script for a specific audience. It can be challenged to come up with 260 character content 4 times a day. So this is how chat can help with that. And hopefully this has been another good and fun episode of AI for Apologetics. If you have any questions, any feedback, just leave them in the comments, or contact me through whatever contact way you have of me. I tend to check it all, even if I don't respond immediately. But if you have any AI questions, send them my way. We may do one in the future where we talk about just kind of the ethical ramifications of it, because as Christians, I think we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard than the rest of the world is when we're using stuff like this. So if you have ethical questions about it, if you're paranoid about it, let's talk about that. Send them to me, and we'll maybe put together an episode about that sometime soon. So once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.